The voicemail wasn't meant for me, but my wife forgot to delete it, and that mistake rewrote everything. I heard it while standing in the laundry room, one sock in my hand, the dryer humming like background noise to a normal life. My wife's phone was on the counter beside the detergent, screen lit with a notification she hadn't seen yet. A missed call, one new voicemail. I wouldn't have touched it if it hadn't started playing by itself. Her phone had always been glitchy, old model, cracked screen. Sometimes it did things without asking. Her voice came through the speaker first, breathless, smiling. "Okay, but you can't leave marks this time. He noticed last week." Then a man laughed, low, confident. "I'll be careful," he said. "He doesn't seem like the type who pushes." The message ended with a soft sound. Fabric, movement, something intimate enough that my stomach dropped before my mind caught up. I stood there holding the sock, my pulse slow, my thoughts unnaturally clear. He noticed last week. I replayed it once. That was enough. "My name is Nathan Cole. I'm 42 years old, married to Elise for 13 years. We live in a quiet development outside Portland, where everyone waves and no one listens. I work in risk management. I get paid to plan for failure before it happens." Apparently, I'd been doing that job at work and nowhere else. I didn't confront her. I didn't even pause the dryer. I folded the rest of the laundry, placed everything neatly on the couch, and went upstairs like I hadn't just heard my marriage reduced to a background inconvenience. Elise came home an hour later, bright and energized, dropping her bag by the door and kissing my cheek like nothing had changed. "Long day," she said. "I'm starving." I smiled. "Dinner's almost ready." She chatted while I cooked, talked about her coworkers, a new project, a lunch meeting that ran long. She never mentioned the voicemail, never noticed the faint tension in my shoulders, never wondered why I watched her so carefully when she laughed. That night she fell asleep quickly. I didn't. I lay awake listening to her breathe and thought about the phrase, "He doesn't seem like the type who pushes." That was who she thought I was. Passive, predictable, safe to betray. I waited until her breathing deepened, then gently lifted her phone from the nightstand. I didn't unlock it. I didn't need to. The voicemail was still there, highlighted like a confession waiting to be heard again. I recorded it using my own phone. Then I put her phone back exactly where it had been. The next morning, Elise mentioned she had a massage appointment after work. "I might be late," she said casually. "Don't wait up." I nodded. "Hope it helps your shoulders." She smiled. "You're sweet." I checked her location at 6. She wasn't at a spa. She was at a house I didn't recognize, in a neighborhood I'd never driven through, 10 minutes from downtown. The dot stayed there for 90 minutes. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the screen, not angry, not shaking, just aware. This wasn't new. This was maintenance. I started documenting that night, not obsessively, professionally. Dates she claimed appointments. Times she arrived home already showered. Moments her phone went silent. Patterns emerged quickly once I allowed myself to see them. The man's name appeared the following week. "Mark fixed the issue for me," she said casually while scrolling her phone. Mark. She said it like she'd said my name 1,000 times before. Comfortable. Familiar. I searched him. Mark Reynolds. Married. 2 teenage kids. Works in property development. His wife posted often, family dinners, anniversary tributes, smiling photos with captions about commitment. Elise had liked several of them. That detail sat heavier than the rest. She wasn't just cheating, she was participating in a shared illusion. The moment I knew this wouldn't end quietly came the night Elise brought the illusion into our house. She was getting ready for bed when her phone buzzed on the dresser. She was already in the bathroom, water running. The message preview lit the screen. "Next time, we don't rush. I want more time with you." I took a photo of it and set the phone back down. When she came out, she wrapped her arms around me from behind. "You're quiet tonight," she said. "Just thinking," I replied. She kissed my neck and went to bed. I stared at the ceiling and made a decision that surprised even me. I wasn't going to expose her. I was going to let her confidence dismantle itself, because people who believe they're safe make bigger and bigger mistakes. And Elise believed I wasn't the type who pushed. She was about to learn exactly what kind of man I was when I finally did. The unraveling didn't start with anger. It started with distance. Not the obvious kind that invites suspicion, but the subtle kind that feels like maturity. I became calmer, more agreeable. I stopped asking follow-up questions. I stopped checking the time when Elise said she'd be late. I stopped reacting in ways that might reassure her I was still emotionally dependent on explanations. People who are cheating rely on friction. Guilt needs resistance to feel real. When there's none, it dulls. Elise grew lighter by the day. She laughed more. She touched me less. She began humming while scrolling through her phone, her thumb moving in familiar rhythms. She had moved the affair out of secrecy and into routine, and routine is where people get sloppy. I kept documenting. The house on the map appeared twice a week now. Always late afternoon, always long enough to erase plausible deniability. I looked up the property records. It belonged to Mark. He hadn't even bothered to rent a neutral space. He brought my wife into his home while his kids were at school and his wife was at work. That detail mattered, not because it made it worse emotionally, but because it clarified who he was. Careless, entitled, comfortable with collateral damage. 2 weeks later, Elise made her first real mistake. She lied unnecessarily. We were eating dinner when she said, casually, "Mark's wife is throwing a birthday thing for one of the kids this weekend." I didn't look up. "That's nice." She nodded, relieved. "Yeah, they've got a good thing." I chewed slowly. She had never mentioned Mark's wife before. Not once. She hadn't needed to. But now she was trying to normalize the existence of the other woman, to frame her as background noise. Someone harmless. That's what people do when they believe they're managing the narrative. That night, after Elise fell asleep, I wrote my first email. It wasn't to Mark. It wasn't to Elise. It was to Mark's wife. I didn't send it immediately. I drafted it, read it, deleted it, wrote it again. There was no anger in it, no accusation, just precision. I explained who I was, what I had discovered, how long it had been happening. I told her I wasn't looking for revenge or alliance. I told her I believed adults deserved informed consent in their own lives. Then I attached the voicemail. I sat with my finger hovering over the send button for a long time. Not because I was unsure, but because I understood what came after. Once truth is released, you don't get to guide where it goes. I sent it. The reply came the next morning. 3 words. I knew something. We spoke briefly, carefully. 2 strangers united by the same kind of betrayal, both of us refusing to dramatize it. She asked for confirmation. I gave it. She thanked me once, then stopped responding. That was enough. Elise came home that evening excited, flushed, buoyant, in a way I hadn't seen in years. "You won't believe the day I had," she said. "I might," I replied. She laughed and kissed my cheek. At 9:18 p.m., Mark's wife confronted him. At 9:31, Elise's phone rang. She stepped into the hallway to answer it. Her voice shifted immediately, dropped, tightened. "What? No, that's not. Who told you?" I stayed seated. She came back into the room pale, her confidence gone like it had been pulled out from under her feet. "Nathan," she said, "we need to talk." I looked at her calmly. "Okay." She sat across from me on the couch, hands clenched together, eyes darting like she was searching for an angle that no longer existed. "Someone contacted Mark's wife," she said carefully. "She's saying things that aren't true." I nodded. "She has the voicemail." Her breath caught. "You—" She stopped, swallowed. "You heard that?" "Yes." "When?" "The day you forgot to delete it." The silence that followed wasn't dramatic. It was heavy, final. She stared at me like she was recalculating a math problem she'd already gotten wrong. "You never said anything," she whispered. "You never asked," I replied. Her voice cracked. "Why didn't you confront me?" "Because confrontation gives liars room to perform," I said. "I wanted to see who you were when you thought you were safe." Tears welled up, but they didn't fall yet. She was still trying to manage the situation. "It didn't mean anything," she said quickly. "It was just physical, just stress. I was lonely." "You weren't lonely," I said. "You were entitled." That word landed harder than any insult. She stood pacing. "We can fix this? Counseling? Time. I'll end it. You already did, I replied. Just not the way you expected. Her phone buzzed again. She looked at it and sagged. Mark. Then another notification. Her HR department. Then another. A calendar cancellation. She sank back onto the couch, eyes unfocused. What did you do? She asked. I told the truth to the people who make decisions, I said. Nothing more. You're destroying me, she whispered. No, I said. I'm stepping out of the blast radius. The following days were quiet but brutal. Mark lost his job first. His wife filed for separation. The story spread the way these things always do. Not loudly but thoroughly. Elise was placed on leave pending review. She tried to speak to me then. Really speak, not manipulate. She cried, apologized, promised. I listened. Then I handed her a folder. Inside were copies, dates, locations, the recorded voicemail, and divorce papers. I'm not angry, I said. I'm done. The divorce was fast. Not because I rushed it, but because there was nothing left to negotiate. The house stayed with me. The finances were divided cleanly. No drama, no theatrics. The judge asked if reconciliation was possible. No, I said. Elise didn't look at me when she signed. She moved out within a week. The house felt different immediately. Not empty, honest. Months later, I ran into her at a pharmacy. She looked older. Not from age, from disillusionment. I didn't think you had it in you, she said quietly. To what? I asked. To walk away without trying to control me. I didn't control you, I replied. I observed you. She nodded, eyes wet. I really thought you wouldn't push. I smiled faintly. I didn't push. I paid for my prescription and left. At home, I folded laundry in silence. No voicemails, no lies, no background noise pretending to be a life. Just clarity. And that, I learned, is the most devastating consequence of all.